The ocean keeps its secrets. It swallows ships, sailors, and stories, burying them deep beneath the waves. But sometimes it offers one back, a ghost ship sailing an endless, silent sea. What you're about to hear is one of those stories, a true account that has haunted mariners for over a century, a tale not of monsters or storms, but of a chilling, profound emptiness. This is the story of the Mary Celeste. Our story begins in the winter of 1872. The Mary Celeste, a sturdy two-masted brigantine, set sail from New York Harbor, bound for Genoa, Italy. On board was a seasoned captain, Benjamin Briggs's wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and a hand-picked crew of 7 experienced seamen. Their cargo was 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, a routine shipment. The weather was fair for the season, and Captain Briggs was known as a capable and temperate man. There was every reason to expect an uneventful voyage. For nearly a month, there was silence. Then, on December 4th, another ship, the Dei Gratia, spotted a vessel adrift in the vast expanse of the Atlantic, somewhere between the Azores and Portugal. The ship was sailing erratically, its sails slightly damaged but still catching the wind. It was lurching, uncontrolled, as if guided by an phantom hand. The captain of the Dei Gratia, David Morehouse, recognized the vessel. He knew Captain Briggs. He hailed the Mary Celeste. No response. He hailed again. Only the cry of ghouls and the groan of the ship's timbers answered him. A boarding party was sent over to investigate. What they found would become the most enduring mystery in maritime history. As the crew of the Dei Gratia stepped onto the deck of the Mary Celeste, a heavy silence greeted them. It was unnatural. There was no one at the helm, no one on watch, no sign of life whatsoever. The ship was completely deserted, yet it was in remarkably good condition. The ship's single lifeboat was missing, which might suggest an orderly evacuation, but everything else on board contradicted that idea. They descended into the ship's interior, the air thick with an unspoken dread. The galley was the first stop. A pot of water was on the stove, as if about to be boiled. On a table, half-eaten plates of food lay untouched, the meals grown cold. It looked as though the crew had been interrupted mid-meal and had vanished in an instant. The ship's cargo hold was checked next. The 1,701 barrels of alcohol were mostly intact, with only 9 found empty. This ruled out a mutiny, fueled by drink. The ship's logbook was found in the mate's cabin. Its last entry was dated 10 days prior, on November 25th. The entry was routine, noting the ship's position. It ended abruptly. No mention of distress, no hint of trouble. It simply stopped. The search continued, each discovery adding another layer of strangeness. In the crew's quarters, their sea chests were still there, filled with personal belongings, money, and tobacco pipes. Everything a sailor would need or value was left behind. It was as if they had fled with only the clothes on their backs, leaving everything else to the sea. The ship was wet, with over 3 feet of water sloshing in the hold, but this wasn't unusual for a vessel of its size. The pumps were still in working order. The ship was entirely seaworthy. Perhaps the most unsettling discovery was in the captain's cabin. The bed was unmade. His wife's sewing machine had a piece of fabric still under the needle. Beside it, a small bottle of oil, perfectly upright, as if just set down. Their young daughter's toys were scattered on the floor. On the wall, a clock had stopped, its hands frozen in time. The ship's sextant and chronometer, vital navigational tools, were gone. Captain Briggs's sword was found under his bunk, with what appeared to be a trace of blood on the blade, though this was later disputed. Why would a crew, led by a competent captain, abandon a perfectly sound ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? The question hung in the air, unanswered. The men from the Dei Gratia could unshake the feeling that they were trespassing in a floating tomb. Every creak of the hull, every whisper of the wind through the rigging, felt like a voice trying to tell them what happened. But the story was incomplete, a puzzle with most of its pieces missing. They sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, where a formal inquiry was launched. But the court of inquiry offered no answers, only more questions. Over the years, theories have swirled around the fate of the Mary Celeste. Like ocean fog was at Pedak. Unlikely. Nothing of value was taken. Not the cargo, nor the crew's personal effects. Was it a mutiny? Again, Unlikely. Captain Briggs had a reputation for being fair, and the crew was experienced and trusted. Besides, why would a mutinous crew abandon the ship? Some have proposed more fanciful explanations. A giant squid, a sea monster pulling the crew into the depths, an encounter with a ghost ship, or even an alien abduction. These tales are born from the human need to fill a terrifying void with an explanation, no matter how wild. A more plausible theory suggests an issue with the cargo. The 9 empty barrels of alcohol might have been leaking. Perhaps fumes built up in the hold, and Captain Briggs, fearing an imminent explosion, ordered everyone into the lifeboat. They may have tethered the lifeboat to the ship, planning to return once the danger passed. But a sudden squall could have snapped the rope, leaving them adrift in a tiny boat while their empty, perfectly sound ship sailed on without them. A silent, floating coffin. This scenario is possible, but it doesn't explain why they would leave in such a hurry, without provisions, warm clothing, or their navigational instruments. And so, the story simply ends. The trail goes cold. 10 souls a captain, his family, and his crew vanished from the face of the earth. We are left only with the image of that ship, sailing alone. The uneaten food, the abandoned belongings, the open door swinging in the sea breeze. It's not the presence of something that is terrifying, but the absolute absence of it. The silence of the Mary Celeste is louder than any scream. It speaks of a moment, a single, horrifying moment, when 10 lives were interrupted, and the ocean took their secret. We can ask the questions, we can spin the theories, but the truth remains where it has always been. Lost to the deep, dark water. And that, perhaps, is the most frightening part of all. The not knowing. Thank you for watching. If you find these stories of the unexplained as fascinating as I do, consider subscribing for more journeys into the unknown. Stay curious and stay safe.